Hey guys, Zach Cater here. Wanted to share with you guys a custom project that I had made that might help some of you racing guys out. Um, Basically, I was looking for a do-it-all setup board. Um, One that could, be used as a setup board, could be used for dirty work, soldering, and having a magnetic surface. And this is all basically based around one of my absolute favorite CowRC mats, and that's the 12 by 16 carbon series mats. These are an industrial rubber that's very easy to like roll up if you need to. But this size is just, to me, an absolute home run for portability, because generally when I go to the track I like to pack light, pack small. Basically the less bags I have to carry, the better. But one of the big reasons I love this mat also is it's made to integrate the CowRC soldering mats. These are a silicone rubber that you can drop solder right onto them. They won't burn, so you don't have to worry about like messing up any other kind of mat. But you see, these mats have a nice deep channel in them, to where that solder mat just pops right down into the center of it, and it's locked in, it's not going anyplace. And then there's a third option with this same carbon series mat, that if you don't want to use the solder mat, you can take it out and you can pop in a magnetic mat on top of it. But this being one of my favorite mats, I originally had the thought of trying to use the larger carbon series mat from CowRC and having Rick do a drop-in lit board for it. And Heath, who owns Cow, had a freaking awesome idea that said, what about having the Cow mats drop into the lit board mat? And I'm like, well, that's stinking a great idea. So basically that's what this board is. It's roughly 19 by 16 inches is how I had Rick make it for me. So it's small enough that it can fit in the pocket on the back side of my Proline hauler bag. Now, like, granted, I can't fold the flap down over the top of it to seal it, but it'll still slide down into the pocket, and all of this stacks into itself. So the same way like how the CowRC carbon mat has the lip and drop in for the solder mat, I had Rick do the same with the lit board. I'll move this camera and show this a little bit better, but there is a recess all the way around here for the carbon series mat to drop down into. And obviously I had Rick hook me up with his lights and do some custom logos, basically my name on it, the lit board logos. And again, I'll zoom in on this and show you guys a little bit better footage, some of the features of the board. Like some of the stuff that Rick can do, as far as like if you need tool slots, you need a shock holder, diff holders, he can do all of that on the lit boards. And yeah, we'll zoom on in here. Alright guys, so here you go. This is actually all clear. I just kind of wiped this thing down because where it was dirty from traveling. But these boards all have a nice finished edge to them. You can have basically whatever graphics or manufacturer logos you want put on these. Rick does a great job with them, and they're all super clear. But this one was recessed with just a tool edge, so like MIP driver bits all fit down in here great. The same thing, these are shock holes where you need to bleed a set of shocks. Just slide the board off your work area and you can drop the shocks down in. Again, the lighting that Rick uses is amazing. And this light setup has a Bluetooth app on your phone to where you can change whatever you want. You can change color patterns, you can change sequences. I've got this actually in a teal, white, pink pattern to match my buggy body. And the app's really simple to use. But again, the idea behind this whole board starts with the 12 by 16 carbon series mat, to where you can just drop the carbon mat in, and Rick left a little bit of room on this for the mat to just move a little bit, but it's not going anywhere. This is kind of the first one he's done of this size, but I actually really like it because you get this really cool reflective light all the way around it. And something I didn't think about over the weekend while I was working on this, anything that you put down here, if you're working at night, little small screws and stuff, you can see it phenomenally well because of basically like it's a backlight. And I'll end up turning the lights off out here in the garage so you can see kind of like what I'm talking about. But this way, I love this setup because you've got a soldering mat to do all your solder work. You've got the 12x16 carbon mat for doing your diffs, your shocks, all of your dirty work, plus all the pockets, on the side are great. When you're done basically rebuilding your buggy or whatever you're working on, and you need a setup board, just take the whole board, and I'm doing this one-handed, so bear with me. Flip the board over, and there's no etching on this side. Everything's etched on the other side. So this is a totally flat, totally smooth surface to where you can measure your camber, you can do your ride height changes, and I mean everything just works out really nice. And I'll take some photos or video with my buggy on here to kind of give you a size reference for the board. And the same thing, you're done with your setup, you go hit the track, you come back in, you need to make changes, do your dirty work stuff or whatever, just grab the carbon mat, drop it back in, and you're ready to go. Alright, so for size reference, this is my buggy. Ignore the dirt. She gets used but not abused. You can see again, this is, I said, approximately 16 deep, 19 wide, so it'll still fit in the back pocket of a Proline hauler bag. I'll give you another shot this way. So you've got all kinds of room to still work. You've got room to lay out your bit drivers, put your digital calipers, whatever kind of power tool that you may use. So a lot of room on this board, even for an 8th scale ride. Definitely usable for a 10th scale vehicle. And I'll flip this over one more time and show you the setup board side. Alright, so here you go, the board flipped over on the back side. It's totally smooth. You've got plenty of room to get your ride height gauge underneath the front and the rear. And I dropped this thing on this board all weekend long before every round, checking ride height, and no issues about scratching the material. I'm pretty sure it's acrylic. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what Rick makes these out of. And the same thing, if you need to make camber changes, it does help a little bit if you set the car off to just one side of the board. That way you've got room for your camber gauge to stick out. So small little trade-off to have a compact board. It also depends on what size camber gauge that you use. Alright, so one last little shot and look. Alright, every light in my garage is turned off. So you can see the light output just from the lit board. And this is still running in a sequence pattern. You can change this light color to solid white if you want to. But what I was talking about, like at night, anything you put down in the tray just stands out really nice. I mean, this is not an exception to like a pit light, for overhead lighting, but just awesome accent lighting. Definitely a way to stand out in the pits. But I totally overlooked the thought of this backlighting for like small nuts and stuff, because I had a shock that I pulled the shock shaft out of on the track. It came apart with me and had to do a shock rebuild. But the lights on the lit boards are amazing. And we'll go one overhead shot. Like I said, plenty big enough for 8th scale work. So there you go, just kind of a quick look and overview of a custom project. One other thing, the lights that come with the board do have a controller on here that you can use, but the app for the phone from Govee is actually pretty simple to use if you spend a couple of minutes with it. And the really nice thing is if you set a custom light pattern, like I did for mine, just to kind of match the paint scheme of my body, whenever you unplug the board from power and you plug it back up, it maintains that same custom pattern that you set, and you can store multiple different ones. And the power lead for the lights does have a disconnect to it, so there is this short pigtail that stays connected to the board at all times. but the other end just goes to your standard 110 15 amp household outlet. So anybody that runs across this, if you're interested in, hands down in my opinion, one of the best ways and best companies to make a custom setup board for you, hit up Lit Boards. And you guys know how much I love CowRC. You want the best, most durable mats in the industry for RC, go to cowrc.com and check them out.